Hi, everybody, again, and welcome to join us for this webinar. I will just take a couple of minutes to introduce the general topics of the webinar. And first of all, a couple of words about PEDI that I hope everybody of the audience knows. PEDI is a company established in 1982. And since the very beginning has a focus on the engineering and production of crown caps and bidules for the second bottle fermentation of the traditional method wines. At the end of 2021, PEDI has been acquired by the Crealis Group that accounts other 6 companies around the world and is the biggest group producing packaging enclosures for the upper part of the bottle in different alcoholic markets. It's really great pleasure for us to have you with us for this, for sharing this hour together. And the objective of the speech of Virginie, but the objective of PEDI by having this free webinar is to share with you our knowledge on the gas exchanges that occurs during the aging on the lees of the traditional method wines. Then secondly, to really let people understand how the crown cap can be used as an enological tool and not just as a closure. And to share with you what are our research activities, and in particular of one research activity that was run in cooperation with perhaps the biggest specialist of bubbles in the world, Gérard Liger-Belair, and his équipe d'effervescence at the University of Rennes in Champagne, of course, and together with the Director of Quality and Research by the IOC, Bertrand Robillard. And then we will have a focus on a new version of an app that we developed always in cooperation with Gérard Liger-Belair. But I don't want to spoil too much because Virginie will explain better how it works. And of course, last but not least, I would like to spend a couple of words about Virginie, who will run the webinar. She's a close research partner of Gérard Liger-Belair. She has a agroalimentaire degree at the University of Montpellier. And afterwards, she got a diploma d'Oenologist at the University of Rennes. Virginie is our enological reference person and consultant. She's a key person for us. And first of all, what guides Virginie's everyday activity is her passion for bubbles and all the topics related to especially the gas exchanges during the second bottle fermentation. So I won't take much more time, and I hope you will enjoy this session together with Virginie. Thank you so much, Virginie.
Thanks.
Thank you very much as well, Novella. So I'll just remind to every one of you that if you want, you can invite a friend to join the webinar. Of course, it's free. I will be sharing with you the link in the chat, and you can share it. You can just copy it and send it to a direct message to everyone. You can also post it on the social media. The more we are, the better it is. The more is fun the discussion at the end of the webinar. So please just share this link and invite someone to come as well, a friend or a colleague or someone that might be interested in knowing more about sparkling wines. So I will ask to Virginie to share the screen. You can
okay.
Okay, we can see your screen, so it's perfect. And I will turn off my webcam and my microphone, but if anyone has anything that needs help, I will be in the backstage of this webinar. So good webinar to everyone. And go on, Virginie.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Novella, for the introduction. So as Novella told you, I'm a French winemaker. I think you heard it. And I'm here to tell you everything I know about the crown cap and the role of this crown cap. Since 2014, I'm specialized in sparkling wine, not only champagne, but because I work in different areas. So I'm really open on everything that is bubbling, can bubble. So first, just to make everyone on the same level, we will see very quickly sparkling winemaking and most precisely traditional method. So first, harvest, it was 1 month ago in Europe, and with the must we will get first wine thanks to the fermentation, that is to say sugar will be transformed by yeast in ethanol and carbon dioxide as a still wine. Then we will take this first wine and we will make a blend, an assemblage with different cuvées, and then we will take this blend and we will add liqueur de tirage, that is to say sugar and yeast. So once again, you will get another fermentation and sugar will be transformed in ethanol and carbon dioxide. The difference is we will keep carbon dioxide in the bottle, not in this case. And at this time, we can also consider ancestral method, pétillant naturel, everything that spends time in bottles with the crown cap, in fact. And to make it very simple, I would take, imagine please, we are not making wine, but we are making a cake. And the first step is to mix the best sugar, the best flour, maybe best apples if you are making an apple pie. And the aging only, it's a little bit like the baking of your cake. I mean, which temperature you will use for your oven, for how long. And it's a very important step. I mean, if you miss the baking of your cake, maybe you do your best before, it will be a bad cake because maybe it's not enough cooked or baked. So your wine, it's a little bit the same thing. I think you can do your best before aging only, but if you don't control the aging only and the crown cap, I will explain why, you will lose maybe your wine, you will maybe don't have the best wine that you can. So what's happened during aging only? In fact, after prise de mousse, you got a lot of quantity, big quantity of CO2, about 8 bars at 20 degrees, sorry. So it's a big quantity, big pressure. This bottle is in cellar, so it's in the air, and in the air you've got oxygen, about 20% of oxygen. And you may know, but in the air there is a few quantity of CO2. It's around 0, not exactly 0, but very little quantity. So the CO2 wants to go out from the bottle. And it's possible thanks to the liner. At the opposite, inside the bottle, there is no oxygen. In fact, the wine consumes the oxygen, yeast consumed the oxygen, so there is no oxygen. So the oxygen wants to go inside the bottle, and it will be possible thanks to the liner, thanks to the crown cap. That is the picture that you have to keep in mind for this hour. The oxygen goes inside, the CO2 goes out. It's a little bit like us, our lungs, when we are breathing oxygen and we are breathe out CO2. The bottle is the same thing there. So now, why CO2 is so important, in fact? CO2 is what we need to make bubbles. Without CO2, we have no bubble. So it's very important to have CO2. And the quantity has an impact on the size of the bubble. That's an example. In fact, it's not exactly the same bottle wine, but I will explain why. You see at the left side, it's small bubbles compared to the right side. In fact, the aging only is longer at the left side compared to the right side. There are 8 years of difference. The longer the aging, the finer the bubbles, because we lost more CO2. So if the pressure is low, you've got little bubbles. If the pressure is high, you will get big bubbles. It's not so simple, but I just keep this in mind. And to be precise about CO2 losses, Gérard Liger-Beller and with PEDI and Champagne-Castelnau, we work on bottles to understand a little bit more about CO2 losses. And this study, you can find it for free on ACS Omega. It's from last year only. Gérard Liger-Beller has succeeded to put CO2 losses in very complicated formula, as you can see. But what we can focus on is the first 10 years here, the time. And we see for the first 10 years, we lose CO2 as a linear decrease and not very exponential. Exponential, it's about 15 years, and we are more talking about the first 10 years. Here it's concentration of CO2. And to be precise, this study was made on old crown cap, so it's not exactly the product that you can buy, actually. I will come back on this point a little bit later. Now the oxygen. The oxygen is the same thing that for still wine, so I think it will be much easier for you to understand. You know, with the oxygen, wine will change its color. For a white wine, for example, from a pale white, we go on a dark yellow, maybe orange. And for rosé, it's the same. Because of, or thanks to the oxygen, we go from a pale rosé, pink, to something more orange. I won't detail chemical reaction. If you want some more information, please just read this article. So that is for the color. Now we will see about aromas. And this will explain what the importance of oxygen. Here we are at the point 0, at the bottling. For example, we have a fruity wine with a big quantity of aromas, here in blue. If you choose a closure, it could be a screw cap, a cork, I don't know, and a crown cap. With a high oxygen exposure, you will lose fruity aromas and you will get oxidized aromas like honey, jam, etc. At the opposite, if you choose closure with a low oxygen exposure, you will keep more fruity aromas and you will get reduced aromas, that is to say, smoky aromas, flint, etc. And to finish about this introduction, a little remind about global warming, because more than ever we have to be careful about our wine and the oxygen exposure. because you know with time the wine lose acidity and get a pH higher. So actually acidity decrease. And if the pH gets higher, you will catalyze Fenton reaction. It's the same. I won't detail everything about this chemical reaction, but you see it could be responsible of aromas like acetaldehydes, that is to say the old apple, sauterlon, nut, and phenylacetaldehydes, it's honey. These molecules are oxidation markers. And in sparkling wine, it's quite rare to look for this kind of aromas. And to finish about global warming, the CO2 is very important to keep freshness in the wine. We saw that freshness is linked to acidity, but it's related to CO2 concentration thanks to the carbonic anhydrase from our saliva if we change CO2 and water in proton. And this gives acidity sensation in our mouth. So now we speak about crown cap. And maybe if you work for more than 1 or 2 decades, you know other products than the actual crown cap. Before, the very old vintage of sparkling wine was closed with a cork, only a cork. It was at the beginning of the 20th century. And then after maybe during the second half of 20th centuries, we use cork disc in crown cap. The problem is, I think you can imagine if it's cork, and some decades ago, we didn't control the quality of the cork. So sometimes winemaker gets some cork taste because of TCA, trichloroanisole. And it was not very homogeneous batches, so sometimes there was a big quantity of oxygen ingress and not for the other batches, so it wasn't very regular. So at the end of the 20th century, Comité Champagne asked to crown cap manufacture companies, synthetic liners to get out of the problem linked to cork. And at the end, at the beginning of this century, more of you use this molded liner. And all this crown cap has to be used with bidule. And about bidule, I just take a moment because maybe many of you use incorporated bidule. And to my mind, it's not the best idea. We can think it's a good idea because it's a crown cap with a bidule inside in one product. So it seems very intelligent, and I agree, it's at the beginning, it's a good idea. But in fact, as you see, the incorporated bidule is not efficient like the real bidule. You see, it's only 4 millimeters inside the neck of the bottle for the incorporated bidule, and it's twice more for the bidule. In fact, glass maker give no information about the diameter of the neck in here. So we don't know exactly the size of the bottle here. So we do our best in PD to make something that fits with the neck of the bottle, but maybe one day it won't work. We have no problem with the real bidule because here we know the size. So we have to do our work in PD and we do bidule with the right size. And from an oenological point of view, many of winemakers using this kind of product told me that at the end of the aging only, more than 1 year, often you get some bottles which different taste. I mean, some more oxidized and other one less oxidized. So for high quality wine, it's not acceptable to my mind to say, okay, I don't know if this bottle is okay or not. We explain that because maybe it's the incorporated bidule is very hard, so it doesn't fit exactly with the neck of the bottle. So even if you don't lose wine, you haven't leaked bottles, maybe there is more oxygen in trees. So, and to finish about crown cap, I just introduce you one slide about the material choice of the crown cap, just to make sure that you can choose the good crown caps for your wine. So first, you can find crown caps in electrolytic template. Easy to use, magnetic, but be careful. You cannot use this kind of crown cap if there is a lot of humidity, because you will get some rust on the neck of the bottle, and it's very hard to remove it. Just trust me, I try it. So it's very hard, and sometimes you can get some rust if there is a bottle which explodes. So there will be a lot of wine on the other bottle, so humidity, and you will get maybe some rust. That's why in champagne, for example, we use aluminium. It's very easy to use, but it's not magnetic. So sometimes with your bottle machine, it cannot work, maybe. And the last but not the least, the Rolls Royce of the crown caps, stainless steel. With this, you have no problem. You can do everything. You can keep your bottles for decades. You won't move. So it's the best. And that's why maybe it's a little bit more expensive. So now we will go ahead on oxygen and CO2 transfer. So as I told you, there is gaseous exchange through the liner. So first, CO2 losses was measured by Comité Champagne. That's an example of some product that you can find on the market. And here, for example, there are some products from Pedi. And you can see you have big differences between the tightest liner, top S, from the more open. It's not exactly the word, but you understand. You see it's quite high. It's more than a factor of 5 of differences between these CO2 losses. At the opposite, Le Comité Champagne made a study about oxygen in trees, and you see it's the same thing. You get big differences between crown caps with with low quantity of oxygen ingress compared to this, for example. And in fact, if you see, if there is big quantity of CO2 losses, there will be big quantity of oxygen entries. It's quite logical. And at the opposite, it's the same, for example, for top S. This crown cap protects your wine from oxygen. It's the best one, as you see, and it's the best one to keep CO2. And before going further about how to use this permeability, I will explain you something about Oxysorb, which is a crown cap from Pedi. It's a different product because it's not only a physical barrier to the gaseous exchange, but it's a chemical barrier too, because we use a top plus liner and we added antioxidant compounds. So at the end, when the oxygen wants to go inside the bottle, it will be stopped by antioxidant compounds. So it won't last forever because there is a quantity of antioxidant compounds, and when all antioxidant compounds are combined with oxygen, it doesn't work anymore. So the liners are the key to modulate your wine. We will focus on PD permeabilities, and in fact, it's the biggest offer that you can find on the market. Here you can see all products, and here the oxygen ingress and CO2 losses. You find the information and oxysorb, as I introduced you. If you want to modulate your wine to oxidation or reduction, you have the choice, I mean. In fact, most of you use top plus. It's at the middle, as you see. That's why many people use top plus. But if you are making a wine and you need to sell it very quickly, maybe you need to work with liner, which can let oxygen increase more easily to work on your wine faster. At the opposite, if you are making rosé and you want to keep a beautiful rosé color, a pink color, maybe it's better to protect your wine from oxygen. That's why you can use top Z, top S, for example. And it's the same thing for half bottles, because half bottles, in fact, it's same quantity of oxygen entries, but it's not the same quantity of wine compared to a standard bottle. In fact, a standard bottle has twice more wine to handle these oxygen entries, and the half bottle, it will go very faster, the apparition of oxidized marker. And if I can give you an advice, I suggest to use molded liner because it's more easy to use. It's easier to use this kind of liners. Then we will come back about oxygen CO2 transfer. So I saw you what Comité Champagne made, but when I arrived in PD, we focused on this information. And the first thing that I didn't tell you is these results come from analysis on water for oxygen and on gas for CO2. That is to say, they didn't work on wine. It's logical for oxygen because, you know, if we try to measure oxygen concentration in a wine, it's not very possible because wine consumes oxygen and least consume oxygen. And CO2, it's on gaseous model, just to be quick to make analysis. So with PD, the question is, for PD, the question is, what is the impact on wine? Finally, we have no information. There is no publication. There is nothing about that. We are quite surprised. And the other thing is, as I told you, top S, for example, is the best way to preserve your wine from oxygen. And we don't lose much CO2 thanks to top S. Maybe you don't want to use top S, maybe. And you want to use XL because you see on 0.14, 0.18, it's quite the same. But for oxygen, it's not the same at all. So we don't understand why it's twice more oxygen entries, but it's same CO2 losses. We didn't understand. So from these different points, we decide to make research, the very first research on wines. So as Novella told you, we work with Institut Oenologist de Champagne, IOC, and Gérard Ligebeller and his team from Université Prince Champagne-Ardenne, équipe Champagne, Effervescence et Application. So in 2017, we bottled a Blanc de Blanc from Damien Hugo and Adrien Berger with all of our crown caps. You know this now. And we check after prise de mousse if everything is all right. That is to say, the prise de mousse is okay first because we have some pressure, no residual sugar. And the sealing test was okay. There is no capping problem. Then the second batch, it's the same thing about prise de mousse. Everything is okay, but sealing tests are not okay, fortunately. To be honest, we track this wine, but this problem of sealing put a mess in results. I mean, I cannot show you results from this batch, so we won't work with this. So please, the first lesson of this research is to be very careful about your capping, your sealing. You have everything in guidelines from CETI, so use them for sure. So we get bottles from our tirage, and now we want to track CO2 losses. And we decide to track CO2 losses by weight, in fact. So we kept 3 bottles for each permeabilities, and each year I weighed these bottles very precisely. And I did that for 5 years, and here are results. So as a good diet, each bottle lost weight each year. So you see here the losses of mass, and here years. So top, which is it's normal. I mean, from Comité Champagne, we were waiting for big losses of CO2, and top S, a very little quantity of CO2 losses. To be simpler, I will show you information in cubic centimeter per day of losses of CO2. It's the way that we are talking about CO2 losses through crown caps. So you see real differences except for Oxysorb and Top Plus, but we were waiting for this kind of results because Oxysorb is a Top Plus with antioxidant compounds. And to conclude on this CO2 losses, we were surprised because there were differences between our study here and what Comité Champagne or Laboratoire National d'Essai told us. It's not the same result. As you see, there is some differences about 2 or 3. Maybe sometimes it's twice more. Here you see it's more than twice more. Here it's a differences of 3. So we were very surprised about that. So it's a good news because it showed that crown caps can keep CO2 more than we thought. And you see through our study, we show that it's more important than we thought to choose a good crown cap because you can lose a lot of big quantity of CO2 with top compared to top S. It's a factor of 7, the difference, and not only 5, as you can see here. And to finish, if you remember, I said, you know what, it's strange because for XL, a little bit like top Z, it's same losses of CO2, but it's not the same quantity of oxygen entries. Why? And with our study, we find this factor of 2, in fact. I mean, 2, it's not exactly 2, but please keep 2 in mind. So we were, I mean, happy to see that. And these results are only from one study. So we are not telling you that it's the truth, but we hope that later we can do, or someone else can do, another study to confirm or not these results. Now we are talking about oxidation, because oxidation, it's the color, it's the taste, so it's very, very important for us and for the consumer. So as I told you, every bottle is tasted by laser aphrometer, and each year with 12 winemakers, we organize a randomized blind tasting. And we ask them to give a note about reduction and oxidation. And then I made an average of these notes. And we kept a little bit of this wine to make yellow tone following with CLab, which is very famous to track the yellow color, and it's the B that we will follow. And because of COVID-19, we didn't get any results in 2020, but you know why. So about the yellow tone, as you see at the beginning, I mean, after 15 months of aging only, there is no big differences between all crown cap, but after 5 years only, there is differences. There is a first group, top and top plus 3, because we gain about 40% of yellow tone. At the opposite, top S and oxysorb keeps pale yellow, not exactly pale yellow, but it's quite clear. And it's about 25%. And at the middle, you get top plus or top Z. And as I told you, top plus, it's the liner that everyone uses. And it's at the middle, in fact. And about redox balance, you see here at the point 0, up it's oxidation, below it's reduction. And just at the very first, after the first year of aging only, we have already differences. Not significant differences, because it wasn't a panel trained especially for that, but it's trends. We are talking about trends. So in 2018, we see top S and oxysorbs are very reductive, and top and top plus 3 are more oxidized. We keep the same groups. And at the end of the aging only, here you see it's more oxidized for top and top plus 3, and top S and oxysorb are more reductive. Top plus and top Z are at the middle. So the choice of permeability is very important for you to modulate your wine. Even if you keep your wine for 1 year only, it can play a role. And the oxidation hierarchy is respect, except for oxysorb because of antioxidant compounds, is respect if you compare to CO2 losses, I mean. So to conclude about this study, as I told you, liners permeability of crown caps can truly impact your sparkling wine. that is to say about CO2 conservation, the color, the taste. And we confirm, and we are more comfortable to tell you that there is a link between CO2 losses, which are proportional to oxygen ingress. And please keep in mind that before thinking about the best permeability of the crown cap, the winemaker has to make sure the capping is okay. I mean, you have to make it right before making smart. And to finish, we saw that the nose and the mouth of us, I mean of winemaker, of professional of wine, were better than a CLAB to make an evaluation about the oxidation. We have to carry on of this kind of results, as I told you, that these results are the very first ones, so maybe it's not very the truth, or it's the truth, we don't know. In fact, we hope we are on the good track, I'm sorry. And we gave some notes about reduction, oxidation, but it's only quantity information. Now we need quality information, what kind of reduction, what kind of oxidation. So we have to carry on this point. And we work only on Chardonnay. Chardonnay, it's amazing because we find it everywhere, but it's not, we use other great variety in the world to make sparkling wine. So we have to extend this study on some other variety. And to finish, let me introduce you an exclusivity, because it's the very first time that I'm speaking about that. It's an app. Maybe some of you can remember, it's the comeback of an app. In fact, we want to help you to predict the becoming of your wine, and more precisely for this first step, the pressure of your wine. So in association with Gérard Ligebelair, we created this app. In fact, Gérard Ligebelair made a lot of very complicated formula about CO2 losses with our liners and other things I will introduce you later. And we put everything in this app. It will be, we want to show you, to give you a very easy and a free way to choose the best crown cap for you. How it will work. So it will be launched in November, but I show you for the very first time how it will work. So Bubbles by Pedi. First, it will be in English, but not only in English. It will be in Italian. I heard that you are many from Italy, and it will be in French, because I'm French, maybe. In fact, there is many winemakers for sparkling wine in France, but it will be in English, and I mean like this, everyone, or maybe not exactly, but can understand and use this app. So first, we will ask you the quantity of sugar that you use. I mean the concentration of sugar between 15 to 26 grams per liter. You know, the more you put sugar, more the pressure will be high. Then we will ask you the bottle size. As I told you, it's not the same if we are talking about half bottle, magnum, or classical bottles. And in this way, if we have the concentration of sugar, first point, the second point, the bottle size, we know the quantity of CO2 inside your bottle to begin after prise de mousse. Then we will ask you for neck diameter. We know it's not the same in France compared to United States, for example, because in France we use a lot of 29 millimeters, and I believe in USA it's 26, and even if in France, in Champagne, for example, some winemakers use 26 millimeters. And as you can imagine, it will go faster with 29 millimeters about gaseous exchange compared to 26 millimeter. That's why it's important to know this point. Then liner choice, for sure, I told you that it's not the same if you are using top plus 3, top S. I don't know, so you will put the liner that you think to use. And to finish, we will ask you for the time, for how long you will keep your bottle in cellar, the aging on this, so how many years. And then the magic calculation will give you the results. For this example, I take a classic tirage with 24 grams of sugar per liter of wine, a classic bottle with a classic diameter of neck, I mean in France, 29 millimeters. And then the liner choice is top plus. And to finish, I chose 3 years of aging on these, a millésime in Champagne. So the pressure at the end, that is to say, after this gorging, it will be not exactly 6 bar at 12 degrees, but if you ask to your lab, it will be 7 bar because your lab will give you the pressure at 20 degrees, sorry. And what we add, it's just something that I find very interesting. If I lose my bottles in the cellar, what will happen? You can keep your bottle for more than 1 century, and even if that you can, I'm sorry, if you are alive, I mean, it's not sure, you can sell this bottle with the appellation of Champagne, Crémant, Franciacorta, Cava, for example, because it's necessary to be up to 3.5 bar at 12 degrees. And that may be the romantic point. If you make some wine, some sparkling wine for your offspring, they can open the bottle later and it will make bubbles. So thanks a lot. Thanks to everyone. I speak very fast. I hope it was clear. Let me know if you have some questions about what I told you, and I'm listening to you. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you very much, Virginie, for your presentation. You can remain with this slide. I don't know if you need to. Okay, yes. You can remain with the last slide with the greetings if you want, and if you need to see also my face, you can probably activate my webcam. So we have a few questions that arrived, and thank you very much, Luca, for the compliments. So we will now open the discussion. We have a little bit of time, and yes, so I just remind to every one of you guys that you can make questions by your cell phone. There's a question mark on the bottom of your screen. You just have to press on it, and you can type there your question. Otherwise, if you're connecting from the computer, on the right side of your screen, you will find an orange arrow, and you can press it, and it should open up the GoToWebinar panel, and you can text there your question. So another very important thing, every one of you will receive an email after this webinar with the certificate of attending, so the attendee certificate. If you want to be notified of the publication of the recordings of this webinar, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will just share with you right now the link on the chat. So you can just press on the link and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you will find the recordings of this webinar and many more content. So thank you very much. I will go with the questions. There's a few of them. So Ricardo is asking us, what is the difference in terms of dissolved oxygen and or pressure loss between aluminum capsule and the cork stopper during the aging process of the lees?
Can I see the question, because it's a written question, right?
Yeah.
That's good. There is many information. I just want to make sure that I won't.
Otherwise,
okay. What the difference of these are pressure losses between the aluminum and cork stopper? Okay, that's a good question. In fact, there is no official study about this point between capsule and okay, I see nothing now. That's normal.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, yeah, just in fact, there is no official study because there is many things that, about cork. Many people are speaking about cork, and what I know is we lose more CO2 compared to crown cap. I don't have numbers data in my head, but for sure we lose more CO2, but it's not the same thing for oxygen ingress because cork is different. There is polyphenol and other molecules that can protect the wine from oxygen. So about CO2, if you want to keep CO2 and you have great bubbles, choose the crown cap.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So Brian is asking, I don't know if that's the right question for you, but I'm going with the easiest one since none of us is a native speaker in English. Does Paddy have a sales rep in Canada? Maybe also Novella can answer if you have a sales rep or distribution in Canada. Novella, maybe.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we have a distributor over there that is company A.O. Wilson. It's a historical Paddy partners for the Canadian market. A.O. Wilson.
Thank you very much. Then I will go with the questions of Katie and Melina that have more or less the same question, and is about the Oxysorb cap, and they are asking if it's possible to know the antioxidant used in the cap.
Yeah, we have often this question, and it's terrible because our provider don't give us information about that. Or we know that, for example, in Champagne, SECA, which is a group that check if everything's all right, everything is okay with alimentary law, and you know, in France we are very, very hard and very precise on that, and they confirm that's okay. And what I forget to tell you, there is no migration. Everything is kept and don't move from the liner. Novella can maybe add something if she wants, but yeah, I think I say everything.
No, I just would confirm what you say, that anyway, yearly we do with further migration tests, and this is valid for Oxysorb as for any other liner. So we ensure that nothing from the liner will be in contact with the wine.
Thank you very much, Novella. Thanks, Gennaro, for the comments. I will go with a question made by Eddie. Is asking regarding on the storage of the crown caps. How does the storage impact the oxygen uptake, and what should we do? What should be the storage life? Okay, so Regarding the crown caps, how does the storage impact the oxygen uptake?
If we are talking about classical crown caps, there is no problem if you keep your crown caps in a closed box for 1 or 2 years, not more. If we are talking about Oxysorb, it's okay too, but you have to keep it maybe for 6 months, not so much more. Maybe Novella can add some information, some details.
Yes, usually we give some instructions on the right temperature and let's say humidity conditions, and these are valid for all crown caps. And so the recommended conditions are to store the crown caps in an environment free of odors and in a temperature in between 15 and 25 degrees, and in a let's say dry storing environment. And usually we give a guarantee of usage of two years, as for many other products from the production date. As for Oxysorb, as we say that it combines with oxygen molecules, we usually are very precise in selling Oxysorb from a recent production. That's why Oxysorb is not something that we usually keep on stock like the other liners, but are really dedicated productions. And I would confirm what Virginie said, to use Oxysorb liner within 6 months.
Thank you very much. So I'll try to close with a few more questions because now the time is reaching the limit, and I don't want to abuse your kindness to be here with us. I just want to remind every one of you that next week we will have another free webinar on the alcoholization. So you can, I just shared with you the link in the chat, so you can register to the next free webinar. And again, it's free, so just go and check it out. Antonio is asking us, how long should be the aging on the lees to perceive sensory differences due to different liners?
From 1 year, from the very first year, it can happen, and I can tell you that if you are working on muscat, for example, which is very sensitive to the oxygen, maybe after 6 months you will smell the difference. So it depends on your wine. So the best is to make a trial with your wine.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will also share with you the question made by Carlin. You should be able to read it. So she's asking, when we do the disgorging, we lose some of the CO2 and get some of the oxygen. So during the aging, is that gas exchange really important, or is small compared to the one that we lose and gain with the disgorging?
The loss, we lose CO2 about up to half bar, so it's quite important. It could be until half bar. It's the biggest quantity, and there is no a big quantity of oxygen entry during disgorging, but in fact when we put the cork will release oxygen after. So it's not, we are not talking about disgorging step, but the corking step, we will bring oxygen.
Thank you very much. I will close with the question made from Matteo. He's asking, when integrated bidule is used, are all liners available, and what is the impact of having the integrated bidule on O2 intake and CO2 loss?
That's a good question. In fact, integrated bidule, it's about 0.13 cubic centimeter CO2 losses per day. That is to say, it's a little bit more than top plus. And we didn't make trial about oxygen entries, in fact, because unfortunately it's the same product. There is no differences between an incorporated bidule. We have only one product, so we have nothing about that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry for all the other questions that I was not able to ask because yeah, there's a lot more, but we have to close. Vital, I know that you've been asking questions on CMA, and I know that Eddie is at CMA, so you can probably speak with some of the people there. I don't know, Virginie, if you would be at CMA or at Vinitech, if you want.
Yeah, I will be at the CMA on Wednesday. That is to say the 13th. Yeah, I will be there at PEDI booth. So, and there will be a tasting too. You can taste wine with different crown caps. So it's excellent if you want to understand with tasting. Please come, and I will be glad to see you, to meet you, and to taste wine with you. It will be blanc de blanc with different liners. So, and it will be maybe champagne, I'm not sure, or maybe wine from Europe for sure.
Yeah, maybe Novella, you can say a few things more about your presence.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the technical tasting for space reasons will be for about 15 people, and we are already achieving the maximum number of participants. But if somebody is interested in that, let's say today we have a couple of places free, but it always happens, like maybe for this webinar, that somebody signs to be there and then won't be there. So if any of you would be interested, please, you can keep this email address. You will find on this final slide, infopedi@crealisgroup.com, and please write. We will do what we can do with pleasure to let you join if possible. And yeah, that's basically everything.
So yeah, thank you very much, Novella, and yeah, thank you very much for staying with us this long. Thank you very much. We're more than 100, and if someone of you is at CMA, we will be meeting there. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe Virginie as well, you'll be in Bordeaux for the Vinitech.
Yeah, exactly. I will be everywhere.
Yeah, gonna be everywhere. So thank you very much, guys, and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening, depending where you are. Thanks.